And what I should have done first was introduce myself. I'm Todd, and I started this positive living group for a variety of reasons, but one was to gather together people with like minds and also to offer a variety of different subjects for you to think about, all of which will complement each other because that's how life usually works. So when I started out to write this talk, I had a very definite idea in my mind. I knew what the big picture was, and therefore I also knew what the little picture was, and off I went, happily typing. And I had a wonderful time, and I used an analogy of a jigsaw puzzle and all sorts of analogies to actually give the workings of a big picture and a little picture. And then, as often in life, these things take on a life of their own. Hi, come on in, come on in. And I changed my mind because I found out that the big picture actually wasn't a big picture at all. It was only the backdrop to the picture. And so that's what it is. What I thought initially was the big picture, but because we'd advertised it as that, we couldn't actually change our mind. It's the backdrop, and to give you an idea of what's going on in the cosmos at this time and how greatly it affects us. I like to understand. I like to understand everything, and I do love jigsaw puzzles, and I like to put all the information together. And I gather threads from here, there, and everywhere, and see it comes together as one whole. So that's basically what I've done with this. But if something isn't working very well, if you understand how it works, then you are in a position to be able to change it so that it works more effectively. So if I say anything that doesn't gel with you, you want expanding, please ask me questions. I do like questions. It's how everything operates well. When I was 17, I went to commercial college to learn to do what secretaries do. The day came that we were going to do our first typing lesson, and I was quite excited because I'd got my little typewriter at home and I've got the Pitman's book of how to do it, and I'd been practicing. And the first thing we did was take the typewriter to pieces, and then we had to put it back together again and not have any pieces left over. So our very first lesson was about how the typewriter worked, and it was actually saved us an incredible amount of time and effort, because I knew when my typewriter broke, I knew how to fix it. And that is what I think about everything in life. I remember as a teenager just trying to think, if I only knew how life worked, and if I knew how I worked, then I could fit into life and everything would be happier if I just knew how it worked. Well, it only took me 50 years to work it all out, but I now know how I work and how life works. But this is the backdrop, so it's a whistle-stop tour that I'm going to take you through. Have any of you realized how much life is changing? Have you noticed how life is changing? Life is changing. But we are going through such dramatic and exciting times right now. But with change always comes chaos, and there is always confusion. And we are going through a lot of chaos and confusion at the moment. It's like being in your comfort zone. We always grow and expand, and we all live in our comfort zone. There is no place else that we can live. But when we grow and we expand, we stretch and we reach for more, there comes a point when the comfort zone is no longer comfortable. It has to happen, because that is the process of life. So when you become uncomfortable in your comfort zone, it is purely and simply because something isn't working. Like your job isn't working anymore, your relationship isn't working anymore, something in life is no longer working, and that causes confusion. And the confusion leads to chaos. And then one day you say to yourself, something has to change. And in that one day, you step outside your comfort zone. So first, there was a crisis, there was confusion, and then that led to change. And the minute you step outside the comfort zone, what else are you going to face? You don't know how the new job works, You dance around your new relationship because you don't know how it's going to work. So until you find out how the job works, until you find out some measure of routine of how the new relationship works, there is still chaos and there is still confusion. Change is a result of chaos. Chaos is the agent for change. It's what actually triggers it to happen. The minute you step outside of your comfort zone, you are still in chaos and confusion until there is order. The world is in chaos now, and the old ways are no longer working, as I'm sure that you're finding out bit by bit, as you go through your daily life. What I'm going to tell you this evening may well sound like a history lesson, but what I'm hoping you'll see it as is a spiritual story. And we'll start with the Mayan calendar. Mayan calendar, as you know, finished at the end of December 2012. Did any of you query why the Mayan seers could actually see to December the 31st, 2012, but couldn't see till the next day, 1st of January 2013?
Because they considered it was the end of the world.
Did the Mayans consider it the end of the world?
Well, that's what I thought.
That's what you thought.
They thought it would start again.
Before it'll start again, before it starts again. So, but we made it through, and here we are, we're alive and kicking. So it wasn't that the world was going to end as they thought. But in point of fact, the world did end. That world ended, and there is a new beginning, and we are now living in our new world. I want to just give you an example of how the cosmos affects us. When I was 13, I was sitting on a beach, and there was a beautiful, beautiful moon. It was Easter Sunday. And you know how sometimes some of the moons are just so big and so full and they're so close, you can reach out and touch it. This one in the middle of Ramadan was the same. It was glorious. Now, and I remember thinking, that moon, that little moon, because it is little by comparison to some of the planets, that little moon actually throws the water worldwide back and forth every 12 hours. That's awesome when you think about it. But we just accept it because that's how it is. As I went on through life, I realized that it wasn't only the seas that the moon had an effect on. It affected all bodies of water. And as we are 70% water, it affects us too. And I'm sure practically all of you must be aware of how the cycles of the moon affect women particularly and their menstrual cycle. I'm sure there's many people that have been at the end of more PMT than they'd like to. So the moon is an exceedingly powerful, it's moon. Energy, that'll do, thank you, energy. And it has a powerful effect on mankind. Did any of you see any of the Professor Brian Cox's programs? You saw some of them, yeah. They were great. One I remember seeing was I think he's trying to knock quantum physics off its perch actually, because he was very adamant about everything. He was explaining how all our planets are held in orbit by their electromagnetic energy and the magnetic attraction of the sun. And it's all to do with the amount of iron that's in the sun and every one of these planets. But everything is held in place by the electromagnetic energy. If you think how that little moon affects all the bodies of water and all of mankind, can you imagine how powerful the effects of the planets, what they have on our entire system? It's major, it really is, and they do affect us. In 1987, there was something which is called a harmonic conversion, conversion. It converged together, where 3 planets came into alignment in such a position that the astrological drawings of it made it an equilateral triangle. This cannot be seen from Earth, it only can be seen within the drawings. Now this is a major, a triangle is a major, a very powerful energetic symbol as well. There was a huge transformation that comes with these symbols and this energy. At that time, Orin, who is a spiritual teacher who channels through somebody in the States, in 1987, Orin said, there is a wave of consciousness building beyond the horizon. Now, in theory, a wave of consciousness cannot have a horizon because consciousness is everywhere. But the implication was this huge wave of consciousness was coming towards our universe. They also said this wave of consciousness would change mankind. And in that same year, in that book, Orin also said that you can create your own reality. Not in so many words. He said you can have, be, do whatever you want in life. You can live with joy, you can release the past, and this is how you do it. And that was 1987. In 1987, the Lazarus material, I had been working with the Lazarus material since the beginning of the 1980s. In 1987, Lazarus said that you began to say that you create your own reality and gave tools and raw materials of how you did it. But again, no mention by either of these about the law of attraction, but conscious creation and also reality creation, cause and effect. In 1994, Lazarus said on the 24th of April there was a certain configuration in the planets that allowed for, quote, the goddess to return, although she'd never been away. Now, I took this to mean a download of pure, positive, feminine, creative energy, this wave of consciousness that had been building, that Orin referred to. And this is hugely powerful creative energy that came to the earth. Lazarus also said that the 1990s was the most monumental decade ever. It was literally the most monumental decade. There'd never been one like it. They also said that after this download of energy that came in 1994, that we would be faced with a choice. And we had a choice, mankind had a choice. And the choice was three things. One was we could continue to live the nightmare. Now the word continue indicates that we were already living the nightmare. Or we could choose a life of mediocrity. And I don't think much of that, do you? Would you like to live a life of mediocrity? No. Or we could choose to live the dream. Enough of mankind chose to live the dream. So we're off, we're living the dream now. During a question time with Lazarus, someone said to Lazarus, this is all very well and good, Lazarus. We're all sitting here, all 400 of us, or however many there are worldwide. We're doing the meditations, we're creating our lives happily and successfully, and everything's wonderful, but how is this going to affect the world? How is this going to change mankind? How is this going to change the planet? And Lazarus said something that's very dear to my heart, because I am a homeopath, by the homeopathic effect where the little changes the whole. And that agent of change is love. Love changes everything, as the song says. So we made the choice, and we have chosen to live the dream. And it is coming, or it is already here. Now, if we go back to the Mayans, they couldn't predict what was coming in 2013 because they didn't know which choice we would make. So yes, the world might have ended, but they didn't know whether we'd choose the dream, mediocrity, or we'd just continue to live in this life of destruction. Because Atlantis had 3 civilizations that all went down and they were destroyed, and we were heading that way too. But we pulled that back from the brink, so there was no destruction. Now, there is another thing I'd like to add. Everything goes in cycles. And you know about cycles, because everything is always expanding and changing, everything begins and ends. And the obvious thing is about birth and death. Birth and death comes and it goes. The breath comes in and out. We all know about the seasons. Everything is always changing and everything is always moving forward. Nothing ever goes backwards. Everything is always expanding. Every ending brings a new beginning, just like the Mayan calendar. Now, the first thing about the Mayan calendar that we should take note of is the cycle was 2,500 years. So that's the end of a 2,500 year cycle. And if we work on the principle that if there's no a beginning, there must be an end. Or rather, if there's an end, there must be a beginning. So therefore, there must be the beginning of a new 2,500 year cycle. But before you can start something new, you have to destroy the old. How many of you are gardeners? You know, trees have cycles, plants have cycles within cycles. So you will know that part of your garden is going to die, or even if it's fading, you have to pull up the old before you can plant the new. So you need to destroy something in order to make something new. The foundations of our society are crumbling. You may not have noticed it in such simple terms. The banks don't work well anymore. The government, the International Monetary System, the International Monetary Fund tried to fix the banks and tried to make it better. Some countries' monetary system is in chaos and some countries are in serious trouble. But the government, the Bank of England, couldn't fix our banks. They're not going to be able to fix them. We don't want them fixed, we don't want a bandage on them. We have to have something new. But there is no way that you can make something new happen now. Anything new is always from trial and error. It's always a process of transformation. Whether they're going through it or not right now, I don't know. I'm hoping that behind the scenes there are things going on in the banks that are helping it transform. There is another major institution that needs transformation, and that is the National Health and the hospitals. They have started to change things, but because if you don't know what doesn't work, you don't know what to change. So you change one thing at once. Whenever I make anything, I change anything in my life, I only ever want change one thing at once. So if it didn't work, I now know I can do the other. But if you change 2 or 3 things at once, how are you going to know what was effective and what wasn't? So they are beginning to change the national health system. The hospitals are being queried by the public. They're saying, check this out. We don't like it. This is not good. The public took the hospitals to task about it. And the authorities had to do something about it. Our politicians didn't behave with the integrity that we expected them to. They actually ripped off the system badly, and the public weren't impressed. And again, the authorities had to do something about it. I'm not saying the system of government needs to change, but those that operate within the government need to act with the integrity that we believed they had when we voted for them. the media. Do you remember the phone hacking? I remember a particular incident where the police hacked into a young girl's phone. She'd been kidnapped and later found murdered. But the media didn't pass on the information to the police from that telephone. That's appalling, appalling. The media have overstepped their mark by invading the privacy of the public, and the royal family too. Photographs taken in their private time, and they were published. The media needs to change. And finally, the Jimmy Savile saga was anything more sad and horrific than people in public eyes, celebrities who were loved and adored by the public, actually behaving so badly. There's so much in the foundations of our society that needs to change. And the world is changing. 2012 brought the end of an old world and the beginning of a new. And the new world is here. The new world is here. In 2006, a small book was published called The Secret. In it, you were told you can create whatever you want. You can have, do, and be whatever you want. All you have to do is read this little book and everything will be lovely. It opened the door for masses and masses and millions of people to the concept that they can create their own life. This is amazing because creating what you want in your life gives you freedom. The essence of our being is freedom. So you can have freedom to create whatever you want in your life. You've just got to work out how to do it. There are millions of people whose lives changed as a result of this little book. However, because it's only a little book, there was a lot of important things that were left out. And therefore, while people dreamed their beautiful dreams, the universe was not able to deliver the Disneyland dreams while they lay on the sofa, because there was a lot of it that was left out. But there were some people that, even though it failed, came back and said, I'm going to try again. There's got to be something more. I'm going to try again. And I believe that because within The Secret, the essence of truth, that you create your own reality, was there. Now I'd like to overlay those cycles with the dates that I've given you. 1987, 1988 was the beginning of a new 12-year cycle. One of the things that I didn't say, I'd forgotten in the cycles, there is a 12-year cycle. 12 is an important number. There's 7 notes and 5 tones in an octave. Why they call it an octave, I can't work out, because there's 7 tones, 5 notes, and makes 12, and we call it an octave. Now, right, so 77, 78 was a new cycle. And that was the wave of consciousness that was beginning to build. And that was when these two spiritual beings both said, you create your own reality. You are the creator. Midpoint, the goddess energy returned. That is a huge, powerful download of creative energy. And 2000, beginning of a new cycle, a 12-year cycle. Do you remember the fear that we all had about Y2K and what was going to happen on the 1st of January in 2000? I mean, there was, don't turn your computer off. If you don't turn your computer off, it was horrific. There was such panic about the computers. 2006, midway, right on cue, The Secret was published. 2010 to 2012, Galexus, another body of spiritual beings that I work with and that is channeled, said that there was a sweeping up of the last wavers. So if that is the last wavers, what does that indicate? The next wave is coming. The next wave is coming. It indicates there's a new wave of energy. The Secret was valid and opened the doors to millions. But it gave the law of attraction as a manifesting technique. And no, it's not. It's about everyday living. Creating the life you want is about everyday living. We have been through several revolutions in our day. We had an agricultural revolution and we had an industrial revolution. And are we now going through an information revolution? There is so much information available to you that it's overwhelming and that you have to sort it out. But we are not in the age of information, we are in the age of consciousness, and consciousness is expanding. Just before I go much further, I would like to just say a few words about consciousness. There is so much information out there on consciousness, you just have got to Google it and it'll come up with millions of choices. There are talks on it on YouTube, there are talks on it on TED Tubes, TED Talks. In every law of attraction book that you read, there will be something about consciousness. There is this flow of pure, positive energy that is everywhere at once. It has got different names depending on where you're from. It has been called source energy, it is called God, Goddess, all that is. It is called light, it is called love. It is the divine, by whichever way you talk about it. Science calls it a universal force field, and quantum physics has found out all sorts of things about this consciousness, that it's changed by thoughts. It's changed when the flow interrupts it. Something will change it, and our thoughts change it. We live in a vibrational world because energy moves and it vibrates. Everything in our world is vibrational. This means that you and I, the chair you sit on, the tea you drink, the M25, everything is vibrational, and it was created vibrationally before it manifested. There is this flow of universal force travels so fast that we can't see it. It's just like a bicycle wheel. If you ride a bike slowly, you can see the spokes going round. If you ride it really, really fast, you can't see the spokes anymore because it's travelling so fast. Light is like that, which I think is possibly why Oren referred to it as light. You can't see it. It's the same vibrations as it is when it's manifested. Manifestation is when the vibrations slow down, and therefore they are slow enough for us to see them, feel them, but it's the same stuff. There is no separation. Everything vibrates. Science says energy becomes matter, which is the slowing down of the energy. It's all the same world, there's no separation. Now it's like a soup. Every single one of us, our thoughts go into that soup, and that soup is altered as a result of our thoughts. We are spiritual, vibrational, emotion beings. We are part of that consciousness. And we came here to experience life. We came to feel it. There's no learning involved. There's no lessons. We came here because we wanted to experience the physicalness of life. We love to feel. We love the experiences. We love every sensation we feel in our body, whether we know it or not. But we love life. Now, brings me to the law of attraction, which is what has become known as synonymous with creating your own life. How many of you have been to talks on the law of attraction? Not as many as I thought. Yeah. How many of you read books on the law of attraction? That's better. And have you all come to the same conclusion? That everybody is saying the same thing? Yes. You have. Do you know why everybody's saying the same thing? Because there is only one truth. And that is the highest truth that we are living at the moment. That is our highest truth that we're reaching for, and it is the only truth at this point in our evolution. Therefore, this is not only the bigger picture. Creating your life is not only the bigger picture, it is the only picture. And that is why I was giving you the backdrop of everything, because the cosmos, the planets, the energy that has come, that puts it all into place, this is the time for the evolution, and everything about it is the right time. Conscious creation is what it's all about. You choosing what you want to create in your life. Do you know what you want in your life? You do. Not everybody's nodding. That's better, that's better. Okay. It's a bit of a trick question, actually. Do you know that your thoughts and feelings create your life, don't you? Okay. So if they create your life, your thoughts, your imaginations, your feelings, your desires, all create what comes into your life. So while you are feeling them, it feels good, and then you wait for manifestation. So are you okay with feeling, just that feeling when you do the visualization or whatever it is you want? Are you okay with that, knowing that that's going to come to you? Are you okay with the vibrational version of it? Because everything is vibration before it manifests. Or do you want to manifest it now? So the trick question is, if you know what you want, you're actually focusing on the lack of it. And therefore, it's not going to be manifested. The key to it all is you have to be able to hold the resonance of what you want and be happy with the vibrational version of what you want. Now that's not so easy, is it? I know, because it doesn't work for me either. I want what I want, and I want it in physical things. The law of attraction is very simple. It really is, and I could tell you how it works in 4 or 5 minutes. The problem comes with the law of attraction and creation and manifestation responds to you. Now, right at the beginning, I told you about how to fix the typewriter. And I told you about how I found out. Oh, I wanted to know how I worked so I could work the world. And this is it. If you know how you work, you can work the world. So the law of attraction is not going to not work. The law of attraction is always going to work as it works. What makes the difference is you. Now, there will be people who tell you to meditate, and that's great, because it works for them. I came to the conclusion that, or I thought about it, that Jesus had 12 disciples. Each of them went out into the world to tell their truth 12 different ways to reach 12 different people. Because one size doesn't fit all. Not all of us think the same way. Not all of us want the same thing. If you have read Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, those 4 Gospels, you will find the stories differ, but the essence of the truth is there. So you may go to somebody who says mindfulness is the answer and meditation is the answer. And almost everything that the way that somebody says that it has worked for them is the answer. And each person will find people to help. Because it's not the law of attraction that needs to change. It's you that needs to change. And you have to find a way of being happy with yourself while you wait for the manifestation to come. because everything is vibration. When you put out a high resonance vibration of happiness, joy, contentment, satisfaction, enthusiasm, love, hope. Hope is such a powerful energy. Joy. You can't live in joy. Joy will burn out your kidneys by Wednesday if you live too much in joy. It goes up and down and comes back in and out of happiness. If you can hold those resonances all day, every day, just like a radio that tunes in to radio 102 or whatever it is, whatever you're transmitting on, just like a radio, the universe will deliver something. Because it can't not, because it's on the like vibration and it's similar, and so it will deliver it. Every thought you think goes to construct what Abraham Hicks is now referring to as a grid. If you imagine houses that are built, they put up a frame first and then they put wooden sheets against it, and that's how the house is built. But the framework is put up first. So you have different frameworks regarding different subjects. Now there's only 3 subjects in everybody's life. One is health, wealth and happiness. Health is well-being and being fit. Wealth is mostly your career, how you earn your money, or how you deal with money. And happiness is relationships. Every single relationship you have, not just a specific one. So if you will have, say for instance, a grid about money, and you will have certain thought processes that have built this grid about money. I don't have enough, it doesn't grow on trees. Anybody throw in anything else? It's scarce. And the universe provides more. The universe fills in the grid and builds the building for you. You will have a grid about your children. Are they healthy? Are they going to get good jobs? Are they going to do this? And you build a grid, and the universe fills in on that resonance. And your relationship is exactly the same. So all the different things that you have in life, you've got a different grid going on. Now, if you were to turn that grid, and a different analogy, to a disc that's spinning, a bit like somebody spinning a plate or a merry-go-round. Every time you think a thought, oh Lord, I don't want to go to work again today, have I got to face my boss again, and they don't pay me enough. Every thought you can put on it, you think out, goes onto that disc, and it spins, and it spins. And you get to the point where you're thinking more about it because it gathers momentum and it feeds itself. So this thought feeds that thought, feeds that thought. And how many of you have seen that happen? You know it. And because of the momentum that's going on, you get to the stage where the momentum, you cannot stop the momentum. You just can't stop it. Now, if right at the beginning you are able to stop your thought patterns, the momentum won't build. If you are standing, or your car is at the top of a hill, if somebody nudges it, it'll start to roll slowly at first, and you can stop it. If you're standing at the bottom of the hill, you're going to be flattened. Make no attempt to stop it. And the same is with your thought patterns. If you are, for instance, sitting by the fire, and one of the sparks comes up and lands on your jumper. If you knock it off straight away, it's not going to burn or leave a hole. If you leave it there and complain about it, remember, speaking about it, writing something is the first stage of manifestation. It's step 1 of manifestation. Is what you talk about and what you're focusing on when you talk to your friends, you talk on the phone, what you write in your emails, everything, first stage manifestation. If you then say, oh, look what I've got, I have a spark on my jumper. It's going to burn a hole in my nice new jumper. Isn't that terrible? I'll write a blog about it, and I'll write my emails about it. And did I tell you I had this hole in my jumper? And look at the hole, it's getting bigger and bigger. And I haven't seen you for a week. Did you know about the hole in my jumper? And on we go, and on we go. And it gathers momentum, and you cannot stop it, because the momentum actually takes over and feeds itself. And the universe just keeps on supplying you. The law of attraction keeps on supplying you more and more of what sparks that are burning your jumper, in effect, or everything along those lines. You are creating absolutely everything that you focus on. Whatever you're seeing, whatever your mind is doing, you are creating more of it. Now, you are not your mind, because you can change your mind and you can control your mind. Where is the past? The past is a figment of your imagination. It's a thought that's in your mind. The future is the same. They aren't the two. They aren't anything. There is only now, and this moment now, where you're focusing on, and that is what you're creating. The only way to change it, you cannot stop the momentum once it's building unless you stop it right at the beginning. The only way you can stop it is to actually change it totally to a new, build a new grid, build a new disc, to something totally different. It's far easier to get a new disc going about things that are not connected with your subject that's worrying you. Say, for instance, you were worried about your job. It's far easier to get a good new disc going if you think about your garden, because you're growing a lovely garden and it's nice and so on, and it immediately lifts your emotions. It doesn't matter what area you're thinking of, it all depends how you feel about it. So therefore, it's easier to think general things to raise your vibration and stop the momentum than it is to think about trying to change what you're in the middle of. Going back to the New World, there are millions of people now who are creating their own reality. Every single time you create something that's you feel happy about, it doesn't matter what it is, you are raising your vibration, it changes the consciousness. It changes absolutely everything about all mankind, as well as making you happy and your family happy. At one point, the past used to create the present. It is no longer so. You think you're imagining in the future. You imagine what you want. You put the emotions in it. You hold that vibration, and it will be delivered to you. The future is now creating the present. You, with every single thought that you feel, every single creation you make, if they are conscious choices, if they are consciously creating success, you are affecting all of mankind, and you are helping build the new world. Because we are only now, in 1997 we made the choice. We are 15 years into the new world. So there is not a lot that's been done. But would you like to know what's in the pipeline? Because Glex has put out a CD or a talk about 2 years ago. And there are several things in the pipeline. One of the things that they said, which I thought was pretty nifty, scientists are working on a bacteria that will eat metal, which means our washing machines, the cars that are squashed down into a shoebox. This will be broken down by certain bacteria before it goes back into the earth. So it won't go back into the earth as being recycled junk. So there's somebody doing something about recycling. I saw on the television about a year ago, the presenter was in a Scandinavian country, and there was a prototype or a small model of a turbo type of generator. It is to go in the estuaries where the river meets the sea. When the river meets the sea, it takes time for the salt to actually blend into it so that it's all one. If they put river water in one way and sea water in the other way, in the process of osmosis, it turns the turbos, which means all we need is one of these plants at every reasonable estuary to make sustainable fuel. And the sea and the rivers do it naturally. That's huge. That's huge. And there was something else, and I cannot remember what it was, but it was very impressive. But I can't remember now what it was. And that is how I see the backdrop of what has gone on. What has gone on to bring us about to this state where we do create our own reality. It is the only truth. There is nothing else for you to do except to understand how it works and how you interact with it. Tea time.